Alright, here we have a Zenith. I believe this is a X316, either a 316 or a 318 AM FM tube radio from about 1967. And I'm sorry, I haven't really done a whole lot of old radio videos in a while. I've been kind of tied up and been posting whatever I've had previously recorded. And I'm finally out here in the shop, out here just killing time on a Sunday afternoon. This is the Sunday before the eclipse. Everybody around here is going crazy. Basically, we got all kinds of people from a lot of other areas in the country came down here to South Carolina to view the eclipse. So while everybody's out there running around tying up the roads and doing whatever for the eclipse tomorrow, I'm gonna just tinker around here in the shop and stay safe. So anyway, this little radio is one of those mini radios that I've gotten from the estate sale. We worked on one just like this in a prior video that was blue in color. It's kind of a baby blue color, and this one here is a white color. It's sort of a off-white or beige color scheme on this part of the chassis or cabinet, and then this is white here. So anyway, this radio came from a large estate sale of basically a lady that had about 150 radios in her house, and a friend of mine ran across them about a year ago and went and got about 30 radios from the people, and well, this is one of them. I ended up with some of them myself. So anyway, moving on. This set is dead, won't light up or anything, and turn on the switch and there's no power. So let's see what's going on here and see if we can figure out why this thing isn't coming on. It could be a blown tube filament, it could be a bad switch, a bad cord, or any of the above. And measuring the voltage on the incoming cord, I've got a 116.5 or 116.6 volts. So we're good to go there. Alright, and I'm going to show you how I check tube filaments to see if that's going to be our power issue, which I believe in this case it is. This is what I do is I get my multimeter here, which actually has a beep function on the continuity tester part of it. So when you touch the two leads together, or it's got a direct connection, you're gonna get a beep. Alright, so what we want to do is you can either check your schematic. This is not the schematic for this radio, but it'll illustrate the same thing. This is a 12BA6, and on here in the filament string it is listed as 3 and 4. Now most of your AA5 tubes that they use in AA5 tube radios are going to be pin 3 and 4. Most of the time, like your 35C5, your 12BA6 or BE6 are going to be pin 3 and 4 for the filament. But you may want to check your schematic and double check that before you go checking one and get a false reading. So let's hook this up. This is going to go on pin 3 here and 4 here. Okay, I can't hold the camera and do this at the same time, but we'll go ahead and hook up. I already got 3 hooked up. We'll go over to 4. And as you can see, we have continuity, so that tube is good. Or that filament in that tube is good at least. Now, let's check another one here. Let's check this other. This radio's got two 12BA6 tubes in it. So we're starting 1, 2, 3. So this is pin 3. And this is pin 4. And we have nothing. That thing is wide open. And my clips are still good. And we're hooked to pin 3 and 4 and we have nothing. So this tube is bad. This is going to be our problem. Alright, with our 12BA6 tube replaced, see if we get anything now. Well, we have tube illumination. That's a good thing. I hear static, but no reception. FM is dead.
You stepped in to separate kind of the two groups and separate us from the Muslims that were screaming.
Well, the AM's working.
At that point in time, and then everything.
Somewhat, at least. I don't hear anything else, but that real close by AM station run up the street.
4 hour, we do it. Well, no, I guess at first, hey, are you going to escort the?
It appears this dial face is rubbing on the front faceplate. Well, let's go ahead and pull this chassis out and see what we got. Well, I got the FM working on it. Turns out to be a dead 12 DT8 tube, which is a tube for the tuner. No surprise, it always seems like the FM are dead on these old sets anyway, half the time. Radio is pretty clean inside. I did take the liberty to clean all the tube sockets and, you know, clean all that up, check the pins on the tubes for corrosion, that sort of thing. It seems to work pretty fair. Sounds a little distorted on some channels. Oh, no copyright BS.
A drug company do at this point? Well, they probably would keep this a secret until they turn the prototype.
That station seems distorted. Sure if that's a speaker or what it is.
High School, Ramsey Stadium. See the stars come out.
I gotta say, even if it's a downside, if it's a minimal downside, but I can get a better player on my roster, then I have to at least consider it.
I got talk show BS even on FM. Let's go back to AM.
Let's welcome them back and shower them with love and forgive them for their error. We're going to see how well that works for them. Let me tell you what's going on.
Food vendors will also be on site. It's the Solar Eclipse Watch Party.
There's a Jordanian Palestinian, an academic, and he was a Jordanian opposition coach. He's warning of what's happening.
And cooling, Safe Federal Credit Union.
At least another 20 to 30 million.
Well, it's working, but I think I could definitely go over and check a few things. We'll go through here and just check some components and see what's going on. See maybe if we can't get rid of some of that distortion. Seems like mainly on FM, but AM sounds pretty clear, but FM sounds mostly okay, but it's just certain stations. I don't know. Okay. Well, I got it playing pretty clearly now. I went through the chassis and replace some resistors. There was a fair amount of them out of tolerance. I would say 5 or 6 of them out of tolerance. A little cheater cord wants to fall out, but I've had it out here playing for about 4 or 5 hours now, and it's been a few days since I picked this project back up, and that is because this dial scale piece here, I had a little problem with it. It was inside the radio here, and I kept noticing that it was, when I turned the dial, it was scrubbing. When this was in the radio, this piece here was scrubbing on the back side of this, like it wasn't tracking correctly. And also I noticed that the scale, you know, as far as the station numbers were off, as far as where it starts and stops. So I pulled this piece off, and basically this part came out in pieces. And come to find out, this was broken a long time ago, and somebody glued it back together, much like I did here again. Somebody glued it back together, a little like with some epoxy. That's what I used. Again, there's no telling when this was done, but you can see that it's not entirely defect free. This piece here, I don't know how them gluing it back together gave it this warped look, but it did. Anyway, I ended up re-gluing this back together. I had to do it in several parts because these two pieces broke off from the center piece. Then there was this piece in the middle that broke off too, so it was actually 4 pieces. Each of these two sides, the center stem and this piece here, that was broke off, so I had to glue it back together, let it dry so it would be, you know, solid. And then, which I glued these 3 pieces back together first, and then ended up putting this in afterwards and let it re-dry, and then I coated it on both sides. And then I put the dial scale back on it, so hopefully that should be good to go.
In a shed.
Yeah, let's go to AM.
Care of the rest. The Palmetto Shooting Complex is located at 5.
One minute it's blaring in, and the next minute a little bit of static in there. Kind of sounds like a little IF can action. I think I probably spoke too soon. Well, the FM sounded okay, but now the AM sounds crappy. probably the problem right there. Yeah, probably another tube socket that needs to be cleaned. Alright, well, let me look into this a little bit, and I'm going to start the cleanup on the cabinet too. Well, I believe this radio has silver mica disease because when you first turn it on, I thought it was a tube socket issue, but when you first turn it on, it plays a little while and then it starts crapping out. Let's see what it'll do right now. It was just on a minute ago and it started crapping out. Let's see if it'll play for a minute and start crapping out on me.
It's nothing. No headaches, no surprises, no anxiety when it's late. You know, it's just a freeway thunderstorm.
Well, it's not picking up very good.
And that's what you get when you purchase a certified pre-owned Mercedes-Benz from your authorized dealer. Because only an authorized Mercedes-Benz dealership has the skilled technicians to certify that your pre-owned vehicle is up to Mercedes-Benz standards. Only Mercedes-Benz can back their certified pre-owned vehicles with an unlimited mileage warranty for up to 5 years.
Alright, I'm attempting to do an alignment on this thing. I just got a coil of wire. Got the signal generator going into a coil of wire. And got a lot of scratching in it, and I've let this thing play for hours and hours, and sometimes it's fine and sometimes it does this. I think yesterday it played for about 8 hours and was just fine, but there's scratching, and I turned on the other Zenith. It was just like this one that we did in a prior video and let it play a while, and it doesn't have the scratching at the same point this one has, and the scratching is not a normal problem anyway, but I just can't get past this thing probably having SMD, so I think we probably should pursue that, but I'm going to try to do a little bit of an alignment on this thing and see how much better that makes it. Because it just seems like the lower end of the AM band is just really deaf, and I don't know if that has anything to do with the alignment being out of whack or what, but it's definitely got some other issues with it too, with the scratchiness in it, and I've cleaned the tube sockets and all that. I don't think that's what it is. I'm leaning more towards this thing having SMD. Okay, I pulled the can. This is one of the AM cans. I think they have these cans split for one winding to run AM and one winding to run FM. So the AM is the red winding, which is the top, connects to these two pins here, and I removed the inductance wires and got a capacitance reading of 129.1 picofarad. Now, I have not been able to get this schematic anywhere except Sam's is the only one that have it, and I don't have any Sam's, you know, I don't have anything Sam's, and the prices they charge for the schematic, the radio is probably not worth much more than that, so we're going this route with it. I saw a very similar schematic for this radio, and it called for the AM to have 125 picofarad caps. I'm getting 129 here, which is really close to 130. I don't know how reliable this reading is going to be because we're talking about a possibly already degraded capacitor. So, but it gives me a general idea of where to start at. I could always do the method that I have with the adjustable caps and figure it out that way as well. But I'm going to notate this capacitance, and that way I can kind of have a ballpark to work with here. Alright, and pulling this transformer apart, I've marked it R for red and G for green on that side, so I know exactly where the thing goes together. And on this IF, I'm going to recognize this little wax drip as being on the G side, so I'll know where to put it. Could also put a marker mark on it too. Okay, we gutted the can, or we got our capacitor out of our can at least, and everything's back the way I marked it. And here's our little mica wafer here, starting to look a little black on the edges, so I don't know, doesn't look too bad to me, but there's definitely something going on with this radio, and I'm not sure if this is what it is or not, but if it doesn't do it now, it probably will eventually. So we'll go ahead and do this IF can capacitor replacement. Alright, well, we'll put our transformer back in the can here. Well, I have reinstalled the can and put our trimmer caps on here, and I'm picking up something kind of unusual. Sounds like interference. Not sure where it's coming from, but it seems like the more I peek this thing out, the more I'm picking up whatever this is.
Areas that we've been able to improve upon our diagnoses and our cures.
But this AM reception is a whole lot better.
So we'll be right back.
But it's also picking up whatever this is. I have no idea what that is. Never really picked that up before. But I can pick it up all over the band. It's pretty loud up at the top end of the band. Alright, I've redone this can here with the capacitors. The radio is extremely hot, and it's to the point where there's some kind of oscillation noise in it too. Not sure why, but we're on FM, and this radio still has a crackling noise, so you can hear it.
About how some of this stuff works, and when I saw
and there it goes.
Coming down, all our freeways remain flooded. They got that way yesterday. I-45 is one of the main arteries.
There's
and
some of
Houston
the
goes north-south, and I have pretty good access.
crackling on the public radio.
Going on. And yesterday it was like a river.
So we're over on AM and we're getting the same thing. We're getting this oscillation noise all the way across the dial.
Clearly political in nature, and there was
Okay, so what I'm getting at is basically there's more of these cans that's going to have new capacitors put in them, and you know, you gotta call it quits. You just gotta learn to know when to call it quits. And on this one, there's just so many capacitors that need to be changed. I mean, this thing has like 5 IF cans in it, and I don't want to do 5 IF cans. And you know, I mean, with the cost of the caps and the time and effort it takes to replace all the caps and all the IF cans, you know, and this radio is probably worth 15-20 bucks at the most. It's just not worth it, you know. We're just going to have to make a judgment call on it and say, you know, wins win. And unfortunately, we can't always save every one of them. It's just not feasible. And I think this is one of those cases. It's just not worth replacing all the caps and all the IF cans. In this one, it just has too many, and it's just not worth it. And it may even need a filter cap, you know. I mean, you know, as we get into this further, it may need more parts, and the radio is just not worth it. And so I think this one would be better utilized as parts. I've got another one that's just like it, so this one will make a good part set, and I can probably use a lot of these tubes out of here, and you know, a lot of other miscellaneous parts and stuff like that. But I don't have the schematic on it either to, you know, to know the exact value of these, because I believe the Sam's has it listed. I don't have that information either, so I'm just going to call it quits on this one, and we'll just use it for parts or something for another set that needs it. So anyway, thanks for watching.